Welcome to Driving School WA Tutorials. In this short video, I'll talk about possibly the most confusing instruction you can receive by the assessor during your driving assessment. In the assessment sheet, often people find typed comment which says performing 2 maneuvers instead of 1. If the assessor asks you to turn left and then immediately right, if you're on this street here, and if the assessor wants you to turn left first, okay, so to turn left, and then immediately to turn right after that. So clearly there's 2 lanes there, so left and right lane. A lot of candidates for some reason would go to the left lane first, and then indicate right, and then attempt to change lanes. And the next turn is literally right up here. If you've got a limited amount of space to change lanes after you turned left, you would go straight across to the right lane and then indicate it and turn right, providing it's safe to do so. So now we do have questions. What about if there's a car in the right lane proceeding from there? And if you're standing here waiting for it, just wait for it. But if there's a one in the left lane, and if you can safely go over to the right before they interfere with your path, that's okay too. So if it's a clear intersection, once you've committed to turning, go straight across to the right lane with your left indicator and then indicate right once you got to this position and then turn, okay? So once again, when would they mark you for performing 2 maneuvers instead of 1 is when the assessor asks you turn left and then immediately right. So if you do that and then attempt to change lanes and then sharply get across and then interfere potentially with most of the traffic that's coming through, some call it a dog leg turn. The best way, the easiest way would be to turn left with your left indicator straight across to the right lane, providing it's safe to do so, indicating right about here and turning right there, okay? So that would be the way they expect you to do it. And in that situation, you're not going to get marked for performing 2 maneuvers instead of 1, okay? So a different scenario would be if there's a car, for example, if this is just a residential street and, you know, where people can park on the side of the road, if there's a car parked too close to the intersection, right? Okay, so if there's a car there and you wanted to turn, it doesn't really matter whether you're turning from there or anywhere else. Say, for example, if you're turning from the far right lane, you're turning there, okay, so clearly that vehicle parked too close to the intersection, which they shouldn't, but there's nothing we can do about it most of the times, okay? So you got to intercept if there's anyone coming from there, okay, in order to go straight over without separately indicating here and then passing them. So you could cut around it without indicating right separately. What some people would do, they would turn, line up behind the parked vehicle, stop there partially, indicate right, check their blind spot, and then deviate around it sharply and go that way. So that's completely unnecessary, providing that you anticipated the intersection. You obviously, from that point, you would have intercepted already that there's a parked vehicle, and also if you don't see anyone approaching fast to that sort of point, you can go straight around them and then back to the left lane, okay? So that is the best way of doing it. A lot of people ask us, would that be immediate failure if you do it wrong? Not necessarily. It would depend on the situation. Generally, if there's an empty intersection, you might lose your points for your flow and your path. Path would be a bit all over the place, and also you'd be potentially taking longer, so for that reason you get marked for flow as well. So avoid performing 2 maneuvers instead of 1 when possible. A lot of times it'll come down to familiarity with the suburbs where you're driving in your driving test. So practice in the area of your driving assessment as much as possible, and that way you will perform better than if it's your first time in the area. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.